Good afternoon. This is Sahara of FYI Sahara, and today I have the great pleasure of bringing you Her Majesty's Queen Elizabeth chart. I think you're going to find it interesting, and I think that it's nice to look at the world through astrology because it shows that the British monarchy are indeed quite quirky and interesting. I don't think anybody has a perfect life, but she has done her very, very best. She is Capricorn rising. Capricorns always try to do their very best, but they do appear to be a bit stuffy and dedicated to duty. Does that sound familiar? Well, that's our Queen Elizabeth. The fun thing about astrology is nobody can pull the wool over an astrologer's eyes. You can say or publicize anything you want, but the astrologer, if they have information about your birth chart, can find out perhaps the real deal. Let's take a quick look at our Queen's chart. She was born, I don't have the information, it's up here, in well, she was born like around 1926. And she's the longest reigning queen or monarch ever of the recent history. And she has been truly dedicated to duty. She does come off in this great criticism as quite a stuffy sort. And I do feel that that's part her personality, but mostly circumstance. Kind of the royals in all areas of life end up being prisoners in their castle. Here we have Capricorn rising. Any Capricorn rising person is going to be a slave to duty, no matter what their circumstances in life. They take things very serious. If it's being a parent, or they usually end up running corporations and businesses. They have that tendency to be in charge and steadfast. If you think about the Capricorn, it's a sea goat. They climb up slowly and steadily. And they're very, very conscientious to do the right thing. So Capricorns are nice to have as friends and family members if you're one yourself. Sometimes they become eccentric astrologers like me. Now, taking a quick tour, to me this is a tour when I look around, we have 0 degrees of Taurus. It's on the third house cusp that makes you intellectual. And the funny thing is, she is a Taurus. Truly, she has all the likes and dislikes of the Taurus. She likes the country life, to live in a country manner, to have horses and her favorite dogs. And she likes the quiet and gentle country life that Tauruses tend to like greenery, peace and quiet. However, she's not had a peaceful life, and she has worked so very hard attending to affairs of state. She's always off somewhere at official duty. Can be funerals, coronations, things that are very important to maintaining the British, what used to be the British Empire. And just reading her life at the beginning of the last century has just been amazing. Now she has the ruler. If you want to find out about yourself, you look at, one of the first things you want to look at is where is the ruler of your ascendant. And Saturn is the ruler of her ascendant, and look where it is, up here on the 10th house. Now, it might look a little lopsided, but that's because she's born in a northerly climate. So the earth doesn't always divide up evenly into sectors because the earth is round. And so I last heard, that's the last time I read it, the earth was definitely round. Let's look at her Venus. This is what I found so fascinating about this chart. Her Venus is at 13 degrees of Pisces. This is a very sensitive person. Also, perhaps artistic. She doesn't appear to be artistic. She doesn't show any inclination, but she would like music and art very much, and drama, high drama, like not her relatives, but opera and things like that. But this is refinement, and Venus is very, very sensitive in Pisces. This is a very, very tender hearted person. Let's look at her moon, La Luna. We have seen this pop up over and over and over in the charts we have done. Anytime someone's going to be out front, in front of the public, and making a name for themselves in whatever way, everything from Marilyn Monroe to Martin Luther King on down, and Gandhi even, the leader of India, my favorite person in the whole world, who I named my cat after. And by the way, I'm still putting out the word, does anybody want a lovely kitty cat? And just be sure that you have extra money for new furniture, because he'll decimate everything, but he's cute. So we have a Leo moon in the 7th house. The 7th house is the public. It also tells a lot about your partner in life, usually the husband or wife. And I looked for a little information on Prince Philip because I was curious. This shows a husband who drinks and gambles. I've not seen or heard anything like that whatsoever, but here it is. He smokes, he drinks. I mean, this is what the chart says. There's nothing in the public eye that says anything like that, except he's quite sharp-tongued as a Gemini. He can be quite witty, if not cutting. And you always see the pictures of them if they're out in public. Prince Charles walks behind the Queen, always, and he'll always be busy chatting to those around him, whether it's guards, security, or dignitaries. He's quite the chatty fellow. It's a Gemini. But you'll see, we won't have time to do his chart, but they should get along quite well. But this chart shows I'm fighting with my husband over addictions. And so this is running in her family. Her sons, she has 3 sons and a daughter. Now, she did have a wild child for her younger sister, Princess Margaret, who just recently died. And Princess Margaret was very hard to keep track of and get her to behave herself. Here we have a dutiful Capricorn, Taurus, which is a very kind and pleasant person. And, you know, everything here in this chart, the 2nd house is kind of active, and this is a money house. Well, needless to say, she has the crown jewels and a couple castles and whatever. And so that's the 2nd house here. So the 2nd house is your money, and her 2nd house is indeed active. If we have time, we'll be looking at the tarot cards and numerology for this, because it becomes very fascinating. Here's a 4 for the way you think. And we have, that's very heavy thinking and very serious thinking. That is the Hierophant, and we're going to look at it. It's a 4. 4 and 13 are the same. 13 is 1 plus 3 equals 4. So it's very serious. Now, here is something that fascinated me, was Venus is at 13, and we see the theme of 22 here several places. Here it is at Neptune and Jupiter. So we have seriousness all over the place, and much of her life has been very serious, even though she just prefers living in the country, having a little garden, and taking care of her beloved pets. She is, and so is Philip. You never see her consort. He's called her consort, which is weird. And he is one of the most active of the royal family, taking care of all kinds of, chairing all kinds of conservatorships, and organizations. He's broken all the records, so he is behind. He's running all kinds of things that are for the good of things like the environment and orphanages. So he's always giving a speech and promoting something. He's like the head of anywhere from 500 to 800 organizations and boards to protect and preserve things that are of value, while the queen is off queening all the time. But look at this Venus here, 13 degrees of Pisces. What you're going to find is that's princesses, and that's young women. Her whole life right here is Venus. Her whole life has been big problems with the younger women in her life. Even Princess Margaret, her younger sister, who was a wild child, smoked, drank, the whole bit. It was just a very different personality with the princess, the younger princess. She didn't have the responsibility, so she could live it up. But she died about 10 years ago. So we have, as you know, she had, as daughter-in-laws, she had the quite flamboyant Princess Fergie, Duchess of York, Ferguson. Well, that was an interesting person, to say the least, but nothing to top Diana. And this was a big problem. I heard stories of Diana throwing fits and throwing herself down stairs and wanting to kill herself, and the queen trying to hold that together. She appears to be quite the proper person, but she's not. But this is, I could talk a lot about 13 and Venus, because my Venus is at 13 degrees, not of Pisces, but it is exactly the same. I have Pluto trine Venus. My love life, been very blessed with wonderful boyfriends and my dear husband. And so my love life, Venus, was excellent. I'm very happy with him. He's now gone to spirit. But I've had problems with younger women, very much like the queen. It's just never ended as far as problems with younger women. Always a problem. Cousins, my sister, disasters, all of them. And I always wondered, what is the deal? I couldn't understand it. My Venus is in good aspect. Of course, I have challenges. But why am I having this problem? That's when one day I started to connect it. Numerology. I never believed in numerology. I thought that was silly until I saw it working out in charts. And in my own life, it explained everything. The younger woman was a 13. You might remember 13 is the death card. And that's exactly what it's been. Horrible drugs, deceit, stealing. This is my cousins. I have all young women cousins. I'm the oldest. Problems. Oh, it's just drugs, alcohol, mischievous, stealing. It is shocking to me. So I think, well, same thing. It's Pluto trine Venus means you have a nice, happy love life. And even though it looks like the Prince Philip, there's something wrong here, and I don't have the inside scoop. They, of course, try to keep everything private, but this might be why she's had the nice long life, because it's in the 6th house of your health. So here you have this. But the other thing, when Neptune is involved with Mars, that's a very, very naval aspect. By the way, anytime you have Mars, which is military, an aspect to Neptune, god of the sea, you're going to have military things. And that was kind of a problem with Prince Charles. Diana was always unhappy. He was off doing naval things. And she didn't like that at all. She was basically a military wife. Now, that is the same thing with Philip. He has been off since World War II. My goodness, that's amazing. The military history with this family. And there you have it. God of the sea, Mars. But this opposition shows that's some poisoned blood as well. So there's a problem here. We might not get to find out what it is. Now, so let's go back to the most elevated planet, Saturn, and the ruler of her ascendant. This is attention to duty. This is running big enterprises. So I suppose the British Empire, it would qualify. And this means I'm serious about this. But on the other hand, we have 0 degrees of Taurus. Now let's look at that tarot card for 0 degrees, which is also 22. Oh, by the way, if my camera cuts off early, I will just finish this up in a Queen Elizabeth II, because the plot thickens. Here is the Fool. It is either 22 or 0 in the tarot deck. Well, the Fool is just that. They're quite foolhardy, very different from a Capricorn on the midheaven. In her personal life, and she's done something foolish, and I don't know what it is. She can't go out in public too much, sadly, without a lot of fuss. She was happiest when she and the prince lived for a while on the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. She got to live like an average person, go shopping and things like that out in public. The other time she was out in public without anybody noticing her was when the war ended in 1945, 1946 and 45, and she was able to disguise herself with a scarf and a hat and go out and celebrate with the people of England. And she also did war work. She was quite the noble worker and very serious. That's the only time she got to go out and actually celebrate with her subjects. This kind of gets sad sometimes that you have, and that's what Princess Diana was not prepared for. So the Fool is about to walk off the cliff. So she might be so reclusive because she says she just sneezes, it's a big deal. So she's kind of having to hide out. Funny thing though, the Sun is your male figure in your life, and Prince Philip is noted for a sharp tongue and a wiry wit. And I think that this Sun is a lot of him. He gets in trouble all the time as a Gemini. So once again, this is the second house. That's and this shows something about your father and your husband. And Prince Philip kind of has foot and mouth problems, and it gets him in trouble. It's sad that the royals can't really have normal lives. Now here is the card for the 13 of the tarot. It's a death card. What fun is that? And funny, it has a bishop here, and the queen is literally head of the church and something along those lines, according to the way things used to be. So she's technically the head of the church, and we have the horses about to run over the bishop in this picture. It's just a coincidence, I think. And I don't know much about the royal rose here, but it's got something to do with life and death, and the queen is part of the house of roses. But overall, when you have 13 appearing in your chart, that's a part of your life you got to really take it easy on and try to play down. For instance, Martin Luther King had 13 on the ascendant. The last thing he needed to do is be up giving speeches, but that was his life's work, and he changed so much in our world. So there's a price to be a hero sometimes. And Marilyn Monroe, she was outrageous in her affair with Kennedy, And she died mysterious. What a surprise. And that's 13 for you. No fun. And things might not bode well for her children. She has 4. You don't ever hear from them. You hear from Prince Charles the most. And will he become king? That's the question. I think the royal monarchy has a rule of you're the head of state till you die. And Queen Elizabeth certainly lives a long time. I think this Pluto in the 6th house does it. There is a blood disease with this, and there's a royal blood factor here too. O plus, let me think. Oh, it's O negative. You have to be O negative royal blood. That's what they talk about, blue blood. My mother was a blue blood. Once she cut herself, and she went, "Oh dear, I cut myself." And I said, "Oh, is it blue?" So the blue bloods they're the quirky folks. Let me tell you, there's always something going on behind the scenes. These are not ordinary people. So, but look, we have on the 5th house. This is your children, your lovers, your fun, what you do for entertainment, and it's Gemini. And it's funny, Gemini they like to play cards. They're ruled by the hands, and they like to do fun things like cards and games, and that's one she likes. And so did the Queen Mum, who is well adored, her mother. She died about 10 years ago too. She's long lived and very well loved, very kind. But we're looking at the house cusp for the 5th house is Gemini, and let's go over here and look at the ruler of the 5th house is 4 degrees of Aries. Well, Aries is a fiery fellow. He's always getting into trouble, and he's just too active and too impulsive. And Charles has had the strangest life with Camilla. I mean, talk about women being a problem for the Queen. She has these daughter-in-laws that are outrageous, a sister that is uncontrollable. Then Charles is madly in love with Camilla, and she does smoke. That's all I know. But this addiction problem is in her marriage. I think it could play out in several ways. But here you have Mercury, the god of communications, and it is at 4 degrees. And we looked at 4. It's a death card. It's no fun. So this makes me worry about the overall life of her heirs. And so we're going to get to find out. And also her chart will tell a little bit about her grandchildren, and we would hope for the best with them. When I look for a little hint about the grandchildren, believe it or not, grandchildren are your 10th house cusp, and this is kind of a serious placement. It is Scorpio, and there's a group of stars called Via Combusta. Way is Latin for is starry, fiery, and destructive string of stars, including Algol. And I do believe Mr. Trump has this in his chart, which usually means that you lose your head somehow. And it's also that one of the stars is the star of the Weeping Sisters. And I know a lot about that. So there's problems here at this degree. And Saturn is very, 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 very serious and restrictive. So her grandchildren will inherit a lot of responsibility that might almost be heartbreaking. And who likes to see that? We like to see everybody be happy, but this is a hard earth plane. You think that you're born in a royal family, life would be a little easier. And we have, of course, once again, royalty is always Leo. And that's a very, very nice degree, thank goodness. Let me show you the card for 12. Remember, 12 is 1 plus 2. It is the Empress card. In tarot, it's the third card. Remember, it's 12. And the Empress is sitting in her garden. It's very Taurus card. I sit in my garden full of lush green things. I love music, art, and the fine things. And I like to take it easy. She's on a chaise lounge, more or less. She has a crown with a lot of stars in it, 12, and for all the signs of the zodiac. But it's also the sign of Venus, and she is Queen Elizabeth is a Taurus. So this makes her this reinforces her love of a quiet country life, what little bit she gets. If you wanted my idea of what this very dangerous aspect is, we have fours, we have the death, we have death card, we have Neptune in opposition to Mars. This is thievery, and it's also violence, and it's somebody being poisoned. And as far as I know, nobody's been poisoned in the royal house, but it does make you wonder what happened to Diana. And I would say Prince Philip has something to do with it. He is quite the computer nerd in a good way. He's totally made Buckingham Palace and all their offices automated. His office is said to look like the cockpit of the Concorde. So, but he's in charge of the finances. I'm sorry, somebody's stealing here. Somebody's got a hand in the till, and it's not a pleasant thing. Where it's going to now, Prince Philip is quite into his organizations, a lot of nature conservatories and charitable things. So I wonder if he's not stealing money to do good. There's chicanery going on here. Sorry, Queen. Somebody's up to something here. It might be for a good cause, but there's too many hands in the till. And whether this comes, somebody, maybe she can borrow money from J.K. Rowling's, if you know anything about Harry Potter. So here we have something's up. If it's drinking, it's drugs, there's something dishonest going on here, and it involves money, and there's a reason for it. The ruler of the second house is Neptune. There's Neptune up here. And what's in opposition to Neptune? Mars. These two things mean there's somebody stealing money, period. And it's violent, and it's sneaky. So they don't let these things get known that much. There's a lot of legal things always with this family, and it just is that way right now. I don't want to go into it that much, but there's always legal things behind the scenes. I'll wrap this up for now. I would love to do the tarot cards on this family a little bit more, but as you can see, they certainly tell a big part of the story. I bid you to, I must say this, I forget this every single time. I need you to subscribe to my channel. I didn't ever know that. I've been making YouTubes. I've never asked. I didn't know how important it is for me to continue bringing informative YouTubes. I've never asked. To date, I have 11 subscriptions. Most people have hundreds because they ask and they're asked. Ask and you shall receive. And if you do subscribe, there's you get a little, whenever I release a new YouTube, you get a little tiny notice up in the corner of your computer. It's tiny. It's not invasive, thank God, because sometimes you're afraid to subscribe to things because it can be so very invasive and intrude on your privacy. And I've not found that true for the people I subscribe to. I want you to look at the bottom of this particular YouTube, and I'm going to give you the website of this nice astrologer, and he's English. he might like this YouTube. He might be able to inform me of some of the secrets. But he can do your chart for free. It's a nice website. And I'll leave his website with you, because and then go to astrodynast.com. I'll put that in there too. That can give you some information. Personally, I like my chart package, but I have to charge if I send somebody their chart. Really just $5, but I have to take time out to do technical things. And the nice thing is, when I learned astrology, it was a pile of books and all day to do a chart. Things have changed. Now, knowledge is responsibility. You have the power to read about your sun, to read about where it is, what house it is in, what house is your sun in, what house is your rising. If you know those three things, you are so far ahead of even the king and queen 200 years ago. They didn't have this information. So use it wisely. And look at the bottom for this lovely man in England. He'll send you, you can go and get a free chart. I think it's a decent chart as well. And if for some reason that doesn't work for you, go on to my email or on the comment section below, and I'll send you your chart. But it is my desire to show people how wonderful this can be as a true guidance in your life. I bid you adieu, my lovely star friends.